The King's Avatar for the Glory, Chapter 11 The Dual Core Era. 4. Audio source, wuxia-world-audiobook.com. Chapter 11. The Dual Core Era. 4. Translator, Nomiyami. Editor, Nomiyami. The new year passed. The various pro players finished their breaks and returned to their teams, and the Season 2 matches resumed in full swing. The attention-grabbing Team 100 Blossoms finally faced what would be their greatest challenge. Excellent Era. Last season's champions, the current strongest of the Alliance. Although they were currently lower than 100 Blossoms in this season's rankings, there was only a 2-point difference between them, and this head-to-head matchup could easily change their rankings. Finally, this day had arrived. Yichu. In 100 Blossoms' preparation room, Sun Zheping released a deep breath. Just that past summer, he had been sitting in an internet cafe, admiring Yichu's victory again and again. Who'd have thought that after a mere half-year, he'd have the opportunity to directly battle him? This half-year had been like a dream. He'd met such a strong partner, and the two of them had coordinated perfectly. And now, their invincible combination was finally up against Yichu. The outside world all seemed to favor their 100 Blossoms, saying things about how 1 + 1 was definitely greater than 1, but Sun Zheping was quite disdainful toward this talk. Those guys were just like the people he had once played with in that internet cafe. They understood nothing. They clearly didn't understand how terrifying Yichu was, nor did they understand how Yichu was never by himself. Wu Zufeng. Chi Breaker. In the dazzling light of the battle god, many people overlooked this player and character. Those guys would never know how important a role he played at Yichu's side. Wu Zufeng. Pay attention to his Chi Breaker, Sun Zheping said to Zhang Jiale. Having finally reached this day, he definitely would not make the same mistake that many others had made before him, ignoring Wu Zufeng. Understood. Zhang Jiale nodded. Excellent Era. Yichu. They had always been powerful opponents in their eyes, and thus they had studied them closely. Zhang Jiale completely agreed with Sun Zheping's judgment. Wu Zufeng was absolutely someone they need to pay close attention to. But aside from that, he also had his own questions he cared about. Say, what do you think this Yichu is like? Zhang Jiale asked. After today, you finally won't have to ask all of our opponents. Sun Zheping had mixed feelings. Because they still hadn't met Excellent Era in a direct match, they still didn't know what this mysterious, never-appearing Yichu was like. But in the league, many players had participated in the first season, and they had all met Yichu before. Through 100 Blossoms matches this season, Zhang Jiale had been constantly asking their opponents what they knew, and to be honest, Sun Zheping felt that it was a little embarrassing. Prepare to go on stage. Quote. At this moment, someone pushed open the door and yelled, "Let's go." Sun Zheping stood up. The time he had been waiting for had finally arrived. Zhang Jiale charged out of the room first, and saw that the other preparation room, the room designated for the home team, had already been opened, the Excellent Era members walking in an orderly line toward the stage. Yichu. Zhang Jiale shouted, hurrying over to the front of their line. Our captain usually goes on stage early, one of the Excellent Era members explained. Zhang Jiale turned around, and saw Wu Zufeng. This person, whom Sun Zheping declared as the crucial number 2 of Excellent Era, was casually walking in the middle of the team, not too close to the front, not too close to the back. The order in which the players went on stage usually indicated their rank in the team, but Wu Zufeng didn't seem to care about this. See you in the match. His steps didn't pause as he smiled at Zhang Jiale and spoke. Just like that, he casually passed by, and walked with his teammates toward the stage. Did you see Yichu? Sun Zheping had finally exited their preparation room with the rest of 100 Blossoms. No, he went on stage early, said Zhang Jiale. Just because he doesn't want to be noticed. Sun Zheping lamented. But I did see Wu Zufeng, and he spoke to me, said Zhang Jiale. Oh, what kind of person was he? Sun Zheping immediately asked. He had seen Wu Zufeng on television, but this was the first time they would have the opportunity to meet in real life. Zhang Jiale flailed for words. He's a person. Quote, it was a poor response, but he truly didn't know how to describe Wu Zufeng. Wu Zufeng hadn't given him a strong impression. After all, he had only said 2 sentences to him as he walked by. Everything had happened so smoothly and so casually, he couldn't determine what his character was like at all. Then we'll use the battle to understand, said Sun Zheping. 100 Blossoms went on stage, but they in Excellent Era weren't the only teams to do so. Blue Rain, Tiny Herb, Wind Howl, etc. A total of 8 teams were currently walking on stage through 4 different player passageways. The 4 matches of this round of the league would all take place here, at the same place and time. But of the 4 matches, the one garnering the most attention was still this match between Excellent Era and 100 Blossoms. Even the members of other teams were all staring at the large screen broadcasting this match. Everyone wanted to know if Yichu was able to stop this rookie combination in their tracks. But to everyone's surprise, this long-awaited face-off didn't occur until the team competition. Sun Zheping and Zhang Jiale had both gone to play in the group arena, while Yichu and Wu Zufeng had both played in the individual competition, and thus they missed each other for the 1v1 battles. In the end, Excellent Era won all 3 individual competition matches, earning 3 points. 100 Blossoms won the group round, winning 2 points. The core player face-off everyone had been waiting for was only now beginning. In the team round, Yichu, Sun Zheping, and Zhang Jiale finally gathered together. As for Wu Zufeng, he wasn't a core player in many people's eyes, but Sun Zheping and Zhang Jiale paid close attention to him. The long-anticipated showdown. Sun Zheping and Zhang Jiale had privately discussed their plans for this battle who knows how many times already. They were currently invincible in the league, but they had yet to defeat Yichu, and they didn't dare relax or be overconfident in the slightest. This day had finally arrived. Go, go. The 2 sent the message in the channel, and blossoming chaos and dazzling 100 Blossoms rushed forward, followed closely by the rest of 100 Blossoms. Excellent Era didn't stick together as tightly. From the very start, the 5 characters dispersed. One Autumn Leaf didn't charge forward to meet them head-on, instead choosing to detour around the flank. What the hell? Huang Shaoshan was very dissatisfied with this scene before him. He had arrived here with the rest of Team Blue Rain, but since he wasn't a full pro player, he could only watch from the audience. He, like most others, was paying the most attention to the Excellent Era vs 100 Blossoms match. This is tactics. Next to Huang Shaoshan, Yu Wenzu held a notebook, and was currently writing in it, with neat penmanship. Don't talk like you understand all of this. Huang Shaoshan scoffed. Yu Wenzu didn't argue, and merely continued to study the battle. The 2 sides hadn't even clashed yet, but he was still paying very close attention. What's one Autumn Leaf hiding for? And they call him the battle god. Huang Shaoshan's complaint shouts continued. Finally, there was an encounter between characters of the 2 opposing teams. Where was one Autumn Leaf? Chi Breaker. It wasn't just Sun Zheping and Zhang Jiale. The entirety of 100 Blossoms was frantically looking around for these 2 characters. Naturally, Sun Zheping had impressed upon the whole team, not just Zhang Jiale, his high regard of their opponents and the importance of dealing with Wu Zufeng and his Chi Breaker. Chi Breaker was directly AEAD, with excellent Tira's Elementalist and Spellblade. Behind him was the Cleric. The only one missing was One Autumn Leaf. Go go go! Huang Shaoshan hollered from the audience. One Autumn Leaf wasn't here. Then excellent Tira deserves to be crushed by 100 Blossoms. Go. Quote, as expected, 100 Blossoms didn't hesitate, and immediately launched their attacks. Sun Zheping's Blossoming Chaos led the charge. Gunfire, explosions, the sounds of battle. Light and shadow provided cover for Blossoming Chaos. WuxRWorldAudio.com. The other members of 100 Blossoms, the Witch and the Brawler, followed closely, and their cleric maintained his distance from behind. Excellent Tira quickly rushed to block 100 Blossoms' attack. The Spellblade's Wave Sword swept out first, and Chi Breaker and the Elementalist were behind him, casting spells and attacking, but their rhythm was off. Excellent Tira couldn't block, and the characters retreated backward. Go! Huang Shaoshan yelled. He loved watching this kind of unstoppable momentum. But Yu Wenzu, by his side, was watching with narrowed eyes, looking almost worried. He was constantly flipping back in his notebook to read his previous notes, thinking and calculating. He wanted to know One Autumn Leaf's current coordinates, but the screen wasn't showing him. Defeat them. Huang Shaoshan's voice was non-stop. And as excellent Tira was forced back under the onslaught, the display screens finally revealed just what One Autumn Leaf was up to. One Autumn Leaf wasn't doing anything. He was just standing in place. What the hell is that dumbass doing? Blurted out Huang Shaoshan. But Yu Wenzu paid more attention to One Autumn Leaf's current coordinates. 56, 73. He quickly noted that down, as though he had obtained the last equation necessary to solve a difficult puzzle, and everything made itself clear. Yu Wenzu tapped his notebook a few times, then shut it. Now, it was time to see if the battle unfolded according to his hypothesis. Even as Huang Shaoshan continued to shout excitedly, he was still paying attention to Yu Wenzu's actions out of the corner of his eye. What had this guy discovered? Seeing how definitively he had closed his notebook and how he was now focusing intently on the match, Huang Shaoshan wondered. At the same time, 100 Blossoms finally broke through excellent Tira's defense. Blossoming Chaos charged forward, blade flashing. Yichu, come out. Dazzling 100 Blossoms sent in the chat, impatient. To everyone's surprise, there was actually a response, a simple coming. Quote, One Autumn Leaf finally moved, seeming not to fear the Berserker's blade. He appeared behind him in the blink of an eye. Sun Zheping had never imagined that he and Yichu, Blossoming Chaos and One Autumn Leaf, would have their first encounter like this, the two characters back to back, facing opposite directions, instead of a direct head-on clash. He wanted to turn around, but he couldn't stop attacking the players before him. Blossoming Chaos suddenly realized he was trapped, enemies in front, an enemy behind. Before he could decide how to address this dilemma, One Autumn Leaf had already launched a powerful level 50 attack, Illusion Dragon Tooth. Amidst the flashes from the firing guns, lines of black snaked outward toward the rest of the 100 Blossom players, one after another. Evil annihilation. In the entire Glory Sphere, there were only a handful of self-made silver weapons that surpassed the attributes of orange weapons. And here, Yichu and his One Autumn Leaf began dancing with one of these extraordinary weapons. 100 Blossoms' attack formation was torn apart. The brawler behind Blossoming Chaos, who had accompanied him in the forward charge, was forced to retreat several steps to dodge the attacks, and the witch that had tried to circle around in midair was stabbed down by one autumn leaf. With these two players blocked, Blossoming Chaos earth-shattering slash suddenly seemed quite isolated. Three Excellent Era players, led by Chi Breaker, immediately began to counter-attack, dodging the shaken earth and the slashing blade. They knocked down Blossoming Chaos, and, without giving him the chance to recover, Chi Breaker hit him with an earthquake and a thunderbolt right to the chest. One autumn leaf quickly twisted around to face the berserker as well, and began a series of combos to his back. Evil Annihilation's damage was high, and attacks from behind dealt more damage. Added to the attacks from the other three Excellent Era players, and a flash from a cleric casting Holy Commandment Light. Sun Zheping had imagined facing Yichu countless times, but he had never imagined a scene like this. He hadn't even had the chance to properly face one autumn leaf before falling. The last thing he saw was a mess of bright flashes and colors as chasers of various types exploded against his body, releasing their magic energy. He died. Sun Zheping couldn't believe it. This was his first encounter with Yichu, and he had been completely slaughtered just like that. The audience was as stunned as the fallen player. Many had favored 100 Blossoms to win this match, and not one of them had predicted that Blossoming Chaos would die that easily. Just a few seconds earlier, it had seemed that 100 Blossoms was on their way to winning by a large margin, and yet, as soon as one autumn leaf entered battle, the situation underwent a drastic reversal. The hell was that? Huang Shaoshan shouted, shock and disappointment written all over his face. That was tactics. Yu Wenzu's answer was the same as before. But even he was surprised at this scene. He predicted that Excellent Era would pull off some kind of game-changing reversal like this. But he hadn't imagined that Excellent Era could just completely kill Blossoming Chaos while doing so. This was tactics, but executing this strategy to this extent completely surpassed all of his calculations. Yu Wenzu opened his notebook once again, and Huang Shaoshan peered over, prepared to read what this guy was writing. But Yu Wenzu hesitated with his pen over the paper for quite a while, before finally writing only two names. Yichu, one autumn leaf. The hell was with that? Huang Shaoshan was prepared to ask, but was interrupted by a voice from behind them. You think that only he could pull that off? The two of them turned around. The voice had come from a youth, possibly slightly older than him. Because his seat was higher up, he was easily able to see what Yu Wenzu had written in his notebook. He was currently staring at Yu Wenzu, but there was something strange with his eyes. They weren't symmetrical. His left eye seemed to be somewhat larger than his right. Who are you? Huang Shaoshan immediately asked. Tiny Herb, Wang Gxe. The other person responded. End chapter. The King's Avatar for the Glory. Chapter 12. The Dual Core Era. 5. Audio source. Wuxia-World-Audiobook.com. Chapter 12. The Dual Core Era. 5. Translator, Nomyami. Editor, Nomyami. Huang Shaoshan smirked. He knew Tiny Herb's roster, and this name wasn't familiar. This kid claimed to be from Tiny Herb, but he was probably just from the Traran camp like the two of them. Speaking with that kind of confident tone was really overcompensating. Hello, Blue Rain, Yu Wenzu. Huang Shaoshan was prepared to unleash some verbal ridicule, but Yu Wenzu had already extended his right hand to the other person. The players in two different rows shook hands. Do you not think that this sort of immediate, complete reversal was possible only because of Yichu's skill and one autumn leaf's strength? Yu Wenzu followed up immediately. Of course it was for those reasons, said Wang Gxe. Fuck, then what are you so cocky for? Said Huang Shaoshan. Wang Jiexie's initial tone made it sound like he himself could pull off what Yi Chu had done. I merely asked because I am not very familiar with the capabilities of a battle mage, answered Huang Jiexie. Oh, then your class is? Yu Wenzu asked. Which? Wang Jiexie answered. Which? At that, Yu Wenzu and Huang Shaoshan unconsciously met each other's eyes. They'd never heard of this player's name before, but Tiny Herb's core was the famed and powerful witch Vacaria. To play the class of the team's core, there was significance there. A witch. In that case, Yu Wenzu turned back to look at the stage. Didn't 100 Blossoms have a witch of their own? But one autumn leaf had landed right in the middle of them from above, and then Excellent Tira's counterattack had smothered them ruthlessly. If I were him, may I? Wang Jiexie made a gesture, and Yu Wenzu handed over his notebook and pen. I'd get to here, 58, 70, and then from there, cut through. Quote. With deft strokes, Wang Jiexie quickly sketched a diagram on a blank page of the notebook. Huh? Huang Shaoshan couldn't quite follow Yu Wenzu's notes, nor Wang Jiexie's plan. But Yu Wenzu was paying close attention. Attack from this position. Here. Quote. He pointed to a spot to verify. Yes, Wang Jiexie nodded. This? How is that possible? Yu Wenzu wasn't one to openly challenge others. For him to say this, Wang Jiexie's proposed plan must have really been quite ambitious. And then what would you do? Quote. But despite any doubts, Yu Wenzu still wanted to listen to Wang Jiexie's train of thought. Disperse powder, frost powder, broom tornado. Wang Jiexie simply named these three skills. Disperse powder to lower the opponent's speed. Frost powder to give his weapon ice elemental damage and the chance to freeze. Broom tornado to break apart the enemies. Yu Wenzu grasped the reasoning behind these three skills. But to cast all of them in those conditions, Wang Jiexie's plan of seizing that position and cutting through would put him right between the back-to-back blossoming chaos and one autumn leaf. How would he be able to quickly pull off those three skills from that position? You're bragging, was Huang Shaoshan's blunt claim, now that he finally understood Huang Jiexie's plan. Next season, you'll see. Wang Jiexie didn't try to explain more. There was a limit to what could be shown with pen and paper. HMPH. Huang Shaoshan, still feeling somewhat disdainful toward this player, refused to let him have the last word. It's not like Blossoming Chaos couldn't have stopped one autumn leaf's attack on his own. He could have forcibly cancelled his earth-shattering slash and turned in midair with a falling light blade. Wang Jiexie glanced at him and smiled. Oh, was there such an opportunity? Quote. There was often a gap between theory and reality. Of course, said Huang Shaoshan, without a trace of uncertainty. The screens were currently replaying the scenes showing one autumn leaf's pivotal kill. Huang Shaoshan turned to watch, and the other two did likewise. Coming up, right now, declared Huang Shaoshan. Yu Wenzu and Wang Jiexie glanced at each other, then back to the screens. The moment flashed by quickly, but it was replayed several times, and when the screens slowed down the replay, both Yu Wenzu and Wang Jiexie could see the moment he was referring to. Wang Jiexie looked at Huang Shaoshan in a new light. It looked like this chatterbox wasn't just some talkative guy, he knew his stuff, even discovering something that Wang Jiexie himself hadn't noticed. Was that an opportunity? In theory, yes. In that instant, if the actions Huang Shaoshan had named were executed, then there was indeed a chance to break one autumn leaf's attack. What's your name? Wang Jiexie asked him. Huang Shaoshan. Quote. He inclined his head. You're correct, there was such an opportunity. Wang Jiexie acknowledged. But would you be able to seize it? Seeing an opportunity was one matter. Being able to take advantage of it was the real test. But Huang Shaoshan simply threw Wang Jiexi's own words back at him. "Next season, you'll see." Wang Jiexi nodded. "Then, next season, we'll meet on stage." "We'll meet on stage. What about you?" asked Wang Jiexi, turning toward Yuan Zhu. Huang Shaoshan suddenly winced. This outsider had no clue about Yuan Zhu's crippled hands and low status in the team. If he knew the truth, would he still anticipate Yuan Zhu's on-stage appearance? Yuan Zhu, however, remained as calm as ever. "You two, aren't you forgetting something?" WuxuWorldAudio.com. "What?" Quote. This time, it was Huang Shaoshan and Wang Jiexi's turn to exchange a glance. Yi Chu is a living person, with the ability to adjust his actions as the situation demands. Not to mention that Excellent Era is composed of more members than just him. You make plans to counter him, but are you really sure they would be enough to change the overall result? That silenced both of them. Huang Shaoshan had assumed that his response could break the deadlock. But would his actions have been enough to render Yi Chu helpless? With that simple question, he deflated, and, judging from Wang Jiexi's silence, the other player felt similarly. Thus, concluded Yuan Zhu, shutting his notebook. "I believe that I am not yet ready." Part 7. On stage, Excellent Era pulled off the reversal and crushed 100 Blossoms. At the front was the king of the Alliance of Season 1 Battle God One Autumn Leaf. 100 Blossoms suffered a brutal defeat. The attention-grabbing Blood and Blossoms playstyle, after going undefeated for half a season, finally met their Waterloo. And the one to defeat them was Yi Chu, was Excellent Era. The 100 Blossoms players had been filled with hope and anticipation as they walked on stage, but as they now made the return trip through the player passageway, they did so in dejected spirits. No one had anything to say. Sun Zheping didn't, Zhang Jialei didn't either. They returned to their preparation room in silence, but when they arrived at the door to the opposing preparation room opened, and someone walked out. Someone who had been with Excellent Era earlier, but whom they hadn't met. "Yi Chu." Sun Zheping immediately shouted. "Ah." Quote. That person looked at Team 100 Blossoms gathered before him. This was Yi Chu, the person whom they had been looking forward to meet for a long time. But now, they were the losers. The battle had drained their earlier anticipation and fighting spirit. And Yi Chu, the person who had vanquished them, chose this moment to appear, making them feel somewhat awkward. But even so, Sun Zheping didn't lower his head. He would never lower his head. Yi Chu was indeed very strong, stronger than he had seen while watching from the sidelines. This would only spur his improvement. "Next time we'll win for sure," said Sun Zheping. Yi Chu smiled. "It won't be that easy." "For sure." Zhang Jialei stepped forward, supporting his partner. "Don't be so worked up." Yi Chu was still smiling. His hand had been rummaging through his pocket his whole time, and he finally withdrew it, holding half a pack of cigarettes. "Do you smoke?" he offered to the two of them, seemingly ignoring their combative attitude toward him. "Huh? Don't know how." The two of them had been strengthening their resolve to defeat him. Faced with this unexpected question, they didn't really know how to respond. "No smoking in the passageways." The voice came from some unknown place, loud and clear. It seemed as though it were prepared for this moment. "I'm going to smoke." Yi Chu waved at the 100 Blossoms crowd, then headed toward the passageway exit. 100 Blossoms stared after him, stunned. This was the strongest in the alliance, the person who had just defeated him. They found no trace of a victor's arrogance on him, but at the same time, in the face of their challenge, their provocative promise to win next time, he wasn't particularly humble or polite. "It won't be that easy. That's how he responded. This sentence was straightforward, was honest. Indeed, it wasn't that easy. They knew this from the beginning, and now, they knew it even more. End chapter.
The King's Avatar for the Glory. Chapter 13. The Dual Core Era. 6. Audio source. WuXiaWorldAudiobook.com. Chapter 13. The Dual Core Era. 6. Translator. Noam Yummy. Editor. Noam Yummy. The Dual Core Era. After this battle, there suddenly wasn't as much excited discussion surrounding this topic. It wasn't like 100 Blossoms had been completely brought to its knees, but in the end, the king of this era was still Yichu, and Team Excellent Era. Who can stop the victory streak of Blood and Blossoms? One autumn leaf. Now, everyone realized that they had gotten the subject of this fateful question mixed up. They should have been asking, who can stop one autumn leaf? In the end, this was still the Battle Gods era. If Blood and Blossoms wanted to be the protagonists, then they would first have to defeat the Battle God. The world could only have one king. Likewise, there was only one championship. Only the one holding the championship could be the protagonist. Every player, from Excellent Era to 100 Blossoms to all of the other teams, they were all scrambling to claim this singular title. Team Blue Rain. Recently, everyone suddenly realized something. Huang Shaoxin had changed. Sure, he was still talking as much as ever. But when he was playing Glory, there was a new seriousness about him. The sort of carefree, casual air that he'd used to exhibit had suddenly faded away. It was as though he had discovered a concrete goal to work toward, and his training had become correspondingly more purposeful, clear, and definite. Huang Shaoxin's playstyle reflected these changes, and Wei Chen had noticed it all. What do you think? Quote, after observing for several days, Wei Chen confirmed that this change in attitude was more than just a passing phase. Finally, he decided to discuss with someone else. Wei Chen hadn't been the only one observing these changes. Feng Shijing, Blue Rain's free player, a so-called free player, was someone who could play any class. They could switch accounts and playstyles with every match, and so it was impossible for an opponent to prepare counters for them. Over half of the teams in the alliance had a free player. It was seen as a creative and interesting strategy for a team to have. But after 2 seasons, it had gradually become clear that although this strategy was appealing to watch, it wasn't actually all that effective in competition. In this season so far, already 4 free players had decided to settle on one class, and most of the others had narrowed down the classes they switched between. Blue Rain's Feng Shijing now played a slightly different role for the team. He was Blue Rain's golden substitute, because he could play any class proficiently. If any one of the main roster felt in poor condition on a given day, or if they need a few changes, Feng Shijing would immediately be put in to replace them. At first, Wei Chen had felt that such an arrangement was somewhat unfair to Feng Shijing. The two of them were old friends from the game. They had played many matches together, had formed Team Blue Rain together, had fought side by side through Season 1. Wei Chen felt that he had wronged his friend by failing to find him a position better than a mere substitute. But Feng Shijing thought differently. True, he knew better than anyone that free players were a failed concept. However, playing as a substitute would correct this mistake while still taking advantage of his unique versatility, increasing Blue Rain's strength and flexibility while still using a minimal number of players. This was the best choice for the team as a whole. Unfortunately, the presence of this free player did not enable Blue Rain's performance to improve. In fact, compared to last season, they had actually worsened. Ultimately, Feng Shijing was not the protagonist of this team, and could only influence so much about this team. And what about the person who was Blue Rain's current protagonist, the single person who had the greatest impact on this team? Feng Shijing understood Wei Chen's current condition very well. He understood, and yet was helpless. No one could escape the progression of time. In the end, the passing years swallowed all. One could only hope that the next generation would continue their unfinished work. Feng Shijing knew how much Wei Chen anticipated the debut of young Huang Shaoxun, and he himself felt the same way. Both of them had noticed the young player's recent change in attitude, and Feng Shijing, as an all-class free player, was more familiar with the Blade Master class, and so Wei Chen sought him out for his insight. Only now is he truly applying all his talent and ability toward entering the pro scene, Feng Shijing said. Remember the first time we met him in game? Feng Shijing nodded. So many of us, yet he was still able to avoid detection and survive for so long. He just naturally has that incredible observational ability. He can spot these sort of game-changing opportunities, exploit the smallest weaknesses for the greatest advantages. But the environment of the training camp, with all its 1v1 exercises, doesn't push him out of his comfort zone enough. Then he must have seen some high-level match recently to inspire this new intensity we're seeing, said Wei Chen. His eyes were opened, and he redoubled his efforts to improve. What he needs is that kind of environment and atmosphere. We need to be the ones to create that for him. Wei Chen sighed. Why didn't we realize this sooner? Well, it's better that he discover his deficiencies on his own, and find his own path of improvement. If we'd forced him a certain way, it could have turned out worse, Feng Shijing pointed out. Then we'll start now, Wei Chen said. Alright, I will build a specialized training regimen for him, said Feng Shijing. Hopefully it'll be soon enough, Wei Chen said under his breath. What did you say? Feng Shijing hadn't heard. Nothing, Wei Chen said. Then, before you make that training plan for him, let me practice with him for a while. Let him feel that some of that pressure. Ha! Watch my sword. Fuck! Huang Shaoxun yelled as he tried to pull off a powerful attack, but he was under the secure control of his opponent. Troubling Rain failed to seize the opening before him, and fell in defeat. Ha, kid, you're still too green. Wei Chen let out a hearty laugh as he lit a cigarette. But in his heart, he was nowhere near as confident as his laugh suggested. Just now, at the very end, Troubling Rain's lightsaber had pointed at his warlock's chest, and light had flashed across his screen as the death strike approached. At that moment, Wei Chen had seen the approaching threat, and he had wanted to counter it. But although his brain recognized the danger, he wasn't fast enough to do anything. Whether his reaction or his control, he was too slow. In that instant, the despair and helplessness that Wei Chen felt was so great that it swallowed him whole. But in the end, Wei Chen had still won, because Huang Shaoxun had made an error. He had seen the opportunity, but his grasp of the timing and his accuracy had been slightly off. The light from his sword had flashed by that opening, giving Wei Chen a fright. Ha! Wei Chen continued to laugh loudly, and hoped it masked the sound of his pounding heart. A hand fell upon his shoulder, and he looked up to see Feng Shijing's face full of barely concealed excitement. Wei Chen understood the look in his friend's eyes. He was saying, "Did you see it? That strike?" Not only had Wei Chen seen it, he had felt it. That one blade strike had perfectly demonstrated Huang Shaoxun's talent and specialty. One day, it would dazzle on the Glory Pro stage. But aside from that, Wei Chen had seen some other things that Feng Shijing had overlooked in his excitement over Huang Shaoxun's performance. Wei Chen had seen himself. He truly had no more hope of competing with those currently at the summit of glory. Don't be too happy, I should have won that match. Again, Huang Shaoxun yelled. This was his third loss in a row, but this time, he had come closest to victory. He too had realized, if his blade had been just a little faster, if he had been just a little more accurate, then the one who had fallen would have been the old man sitting across from him. Wei Chen brushed him off. Again? Hey, I don't have all day to waste on you. I still need to evaluate all the others. Everyone immediately started chattering. The captain was so patient today, to play a match against all of them. The reserve players were all very excited for this opportunity. Unlike Huang Shaoxun, they all treated Captain Wei very respectfully. To them, he and his account Swaksar were gods, and it wasn't every day that these players got to challenge a god. Me. The youths bickered with each other to be next in line, and Huang Shaoshan fell to the side, unable to demand another match. He knew that this was a very rare opportunity for everyone else. And so, with a cigarette at his lips, laughing all the while, Wei Chen played his way through the reserve players. Some got one round, others two. But he won every single match with ease, leaving awestruck youths in his wake. Wei Chen wasn't doing this to build his self-esteem, nor was he purposely trying to impress the youths. He only wanted to clearly experience the raw passion of his dear team, for he already sensed that the time of his departure was fast approaching. Wei Chen lifted his head to see the last youth sit before him. This last youth was also last in the rankings of the Trang camp, the one deemed to have no future. But no matter how lowly, he was still a member of Team Blue Rain, and Wei Chen had no reason to refuse him a match. With these thoughts in mind, Wei Chen clicked for the battle to begin. Warlock. Looking at the class of the other player, Wei Chen was surprised. He hadn't paid too much attention to Yuan Zhou in the past, but this player hadn't used Warlock before, had he? But there was no time for such musings. Wei Chen controlled his Warlock to advance. Because he was just playing with these youths, he wasn't using his main account Swaksar. That would be too much like bullying. Attack. A predictive attack. No, more accurately, it was a trap. If the other player hadn't ducked behind the boulder to hide his movements from Wei Chen, a predictive attack wouldn't have been enough to completely trap Wei Chen's Warlock while he was moving. Wei Chen played Warlock. He knew better than anyone the power of a Warlock who was good at calculations. For that kind of Warlock, once they gained control of a target, that target was doomed. In the instant that Wei Chen's Warlock fell, everyone stared in utter shock. After trapping Wei Chen's Warlock, Yuan Zhou's control and attack had been excellent. Using a precise rhythm of attack and control to compensate for his slow hand speed, he maintained his advantage until the end. Not even Huang Shaoshan had managed it, yet this kid had done it. The captain must have been too tired, right? Everyone was thinking this. Even though Wei Chen hadn't need much effort to fight them, the fatigue of playing so many matches would accumulate no matter how easy they were. He extinguished the cigarette he had been holding. "Let's play another round and see," he said. Same characters, same map, same starting positions. Old Wei fired an attack, and Yuan Zhou again dodged behind that same boulder. Was really the same? He was indeed waiting for Wei Chen's appearance, just like last time. Wei Chen would appear in the same way as before. Feng Shijing, who understood his longtime friend, could make this prediction. Because what happened last time was simply too unexpected. This time he would approach in the same way to figure out what had happened. Of course, his dissatisfaction at the previous outcome also played a small role. However, even if Wei Chen approached in the same way as he did before, this time he knew what Yuan Zhou was planning. He must be prepared to counter, right? He's here. In Yuan Zhou's view, Wei Chen understood the Warlock class too well, and knew that this change was just enough to allow him to dodge the hexagram prison. But the hexagram prison never came. From the sky fell chaotic rain. The movements of Wei Chen's Warlock became jumpy, irregular. No experience or talent could control a character under the confusion effect of chaotic rain. Attack and control alternated in perfect rhythm, and in the end, Wei Chen's Warlock fell to the ground. The room was silent. 2 rounds. Wei Chen had lost 2 rounds to Yuan Zhou. The first loss that could be called a fluke. To confidently reenact the events of before, this time with preparation, and still lose. The majority of the spectators now drifted to watch from Yuan Zhou's computer. The others were all sneaking glances at Wei Chen's expression, but the only one blatantly staring was Feng Shijing, with something like ridicule in his gaze.
Yuan Zhou hadn't underestimated them, hadn't thought that the same tactic could work twice.
No, it was Wei Chen who had underestimated Yu Wenzhou. He had thought that simply countering Yu Wenzhou's plan from the previous match was enough. He hadn't expected Yu Wenzhou to make additional adjustments. He was forced to admit, because of the earlier loss this time, he had been clumsy and underestimated Yu Wenzhou. Wei Chen knew he should give this show of diligence the respect it deserved. You played very well. Let's try one more round. I won't hold back this time. Okay. Yu Wenzhou's answer was simple. Round 3 began. This time, Wei Chen no longer had that flippant attitude of before. He treated Yu Wenzhou as a true opponent, and played with focus. Encounter, clash, dodge, retreat. The two warlocks began an intricate dance, and Wei Chen took the initiative, maintaining a clear advantage in suppressing Yu Wenzhou.
Even so, Yu Wenzhou entered, striving to conserve his health and survive after Wei Chen's every attack.
As expected, the captain was stronger, the spectators were thinking. But Yu Wenzhou wasn't weak either. WuxiaWorldAudio.com. Even though he was being suppressed, he was still fighting beautifully. Of all the people watching, it was Feng Shijing's opinion of him that was changing the most. This face-to-face confrontation truly allowed Yu Wenzhou's ability to shine through, and Feng Shijing saw this clearly. His hand speed was still terrible. That had never changed, and so he had never tried to improve that. But his playstyle didn't rely on his hand speed. Yu Wenzhou was the very last reserve player to challenge Wei Chen. In order to try and be fair to everyone, Wei Chen hadn't changed map or account between evaluations. And so Yu Wenzhou could analyze them beforehand, and use this knowledge to his advantage. He didn't have the hand speed, but he used well the strengths he did have. He had stood by the wayside and waited for his opportunity. Because of all this, he was able to last much longer than Feng Shijing anticipated. If this hadn't been the third round between these two, Feng Shijing might have, at this point, quietly encouraged Wei Chen to throw the match, to let this youth feel that his efforts weren't in vain, to give him some hope and confidence. But Wei Chen had already lost twice in a row, and he had said, "I won't hold back this time." Quote, if he lost again, would he have any pride left? Feng Shijing sighed to himself. He couldn't bear to see his friend lose face to that extent. Still, he hoped that this youth wouldn't become too frustrated by a defeat, and that he would keep working hard and improving. Wah! On screen, purple light flashed. Wei Chen's warlock once again seized a chance to attack ferociously, and this time, his opponent was well and thoroughly cornered. Nowhere to retreat, nowhere to hide. It's over, Feng Shijing thought, with another quiet sigh. Yet Yu Wenzhou hadn't given up. Though trapped and under attack, his warlock continued to struggle, and he even managed to cast a skill. What an admirable spirit, keep fighting. Feng Shijing internally cheered for Yu Wenzhou, and then, he checked the skill that his warlock had cast. Decaying Curse, which decreased the target's attack power. Was he trying to buy time? Seeing Yu Wenzhou's unyielding hard work, Feng Shijing was tempted to just pull the power on the computer cables, forcibly end the match in a draw. But then, at this moment, Wei Chen's warlock suddenly stopped. Around him rose the light of a hexagram prison. Trapped, locked in place by the skill, Wei Chen's warlock was rendered helpless as Yu Wenzhou began casting. Because his health was dangerously low, he cast several protection spells upon himself as precaution. But his perfect rhythm was the same as before, and his low health didn't affect his control of the situation. And under everyone's shocked eyes, Wei Chen's warlock fell for the third time. What had happened? Feng Shijing, shocked, mentally replayed those final pivotal moments of battle. He thought of Wei Chen, firmly on the offensive, and then Decaying Curse. It was all because of that Decaying Curse. That skill had lengthened the battle, but more importantly, had disrupted Wei Chen's attack rhythm. Wei Chen had maintained this rhythm for almost the entirety of the battle. He had gotten used to it, fallen into a regular pattern. So when his attack power had lowered, he had forgotten to compensate. He had reached for a skill, only to find that it was unexpectedly still in cooldown. That's right, that's what happened. Feng Shijing, reviewing the battle, was sure of it. So that was to say, all this time, Yu Wenzhou's actions in the battle had been intentional. It hadn't been helpless struggle or baseless hope. He had guided the battle's progression, had lulled Wei Chen into a stable rhythm and a false sense of security. And then, right when the opponent had been on the verge of winning, he had used a single skill to completely reverse the situation and seize victory for himself. Diligence, persistence? Those weren't Yu Wenzhou's most fearsome qualities. It was his brain, his planning, his calculations. Who would have thought that this youth, who had been completely overlooked, was in fact this incredible? Wei Chen, did you see it? Feng Shijing looked at his friend, but couldn't tell if he was pleased or angry. After appearing to space out for a moment, Wei Chen eventually let out a long sigh and stood up, studying Yu Wenzhou intently. "Thank you, Senior, for your guidance," said Yu Wenzhou respectfully as he also rose to his feet. To defeat Wei Chen 3 times in a row. Even in the entire Glory professional sphere, the number of players who could pull that off was very small. Wei Chen's condition might have been declining, but he was still a god-level player. And Yu Wenzhou, a mere reserve player with a pathetic hand speed, had done it. But he wasn't excited, let alone arrogant. He was just as calm as he was when facing the mocking shouts of others taunting his slow hands. Wei Chen nodded. He fished around in his pocket, but in the end only withdrew an empty box of cigarettes. With a face of regret, he tossed it aside. "Continue working hard," he said, not just to Yu Wenzhou, but to everyone gathered. "Yes," the reserve players answered. "I'm going to buy some cigarettes." Quote. With that, Wei Chen turned and left the room, and Feng Shijing hurried into the hallway after him. Wei Chen heard the rushed footsteps behind him, and without turning his head, he knew that it was Feng Shijing. "It's time," he said, just as the figure reached his side. "What?" said Feng Shijing, startled. "I never imagined that this Yu Wenzhou was also so powerful," said Wei Chen. "No one imagined," Feng Shijing said. "We realized it too late. We didn't help them the best we could. Them, not him." He was no longer speaking of just Yu Wenzhou. "They have a bright future ahead of them, for sure. But they still need time, and you'll have to help them." "Well, of course," Feng Shijing replied automatically. But after those words left his mouth, he seemed to suddenly realize the second meaning behind Wei Chen's statement. "Wait, what do you mean by that?" he immediately demanded. "This dual-core era never belonged to me." Wei Chen sighed and turned his head. In the Trang room at the end of the long hallway, he could see that Yu Wenzhou had been surrounded by the other trainees, including that talkative Huang Xiaoshan. They were all jostling for a chance to fight him in a match, to see his unexpected prowess in action once more. To varying extents, all of these trainees had looked down upon Yu Wenzhou during their time at Blue Rain, but he seemed not to resent them for this abrupt change in attitude. "He is the best choice for captain," said Wei Chen. "Swaksar should go to him as well." Quote. He had only just begun to understand Yu Wenzhou through the 3 matches they had fought, yet those 3 matches had shown him enough. "But, in the meantime, I'll still have to count on you," he added. "What do you mean? In the meantime of what? Where are you going?" Feng Shijing was alarmed. "Me? I'm going to buy some cigarettes." "What do you want to come with? It's not like you smoke." Quote. With a casual wave and hardly a glance back, he headed down the stairwell. Feng Shijing didn't follow Wei Chen, just watched his retreating back. He knew that Wei Chen was making a difficult decision, and didn't want to be bothered during this time. Feng Shijing thought sadly, was always the type of person to bear his struggles alone, rather than share them with others. Feng Shijing looked back at the end of the hallway, at the Trang room, at the 2 youths in the midst of a crowd. This was what Wei Chen had entrusted to him. Blue Rain's future. Blue Rain's dual core. The Sword and the Curse. End chapter.